Well, I thought, as we've been here 3.5 years now, that I'd do a little bit of a summary of what we have found, some of the things that are good, some of the things that are not. So basically this is aimed at anybody who's thinking of coming over to Bulgaria. Most of us who live here already know most of this stuff, but it doesn't always get mentioned, or if it does, some bits get mentioned and other bits don't. So first of all, what's the attraction of moving to Bulgaria? I've done a little bullet sort of list. So essentially low housing costs are one of the main reasons I think a lot of people move over, but it's not just that. Overall taxation is low, though if you're working, taxation isn't as low as people think. I'll come a bit more to that later, but the overall taxation, if you take into account sort of municipality charges, so basically the equivalent of council tax, utilities, things like that, are much cheaper here than they are in the UK. Again, more of this later. The countryside is beautiful. I mean, it's a lot of it in our area reminds me very much of the south of England before it was sort of so heavily built upon. But there's other beautiful places in Bulgaria. There's mountains, there's plains, seasides. You know, it's generally speaking, the countryside is absolutely stunning. But there are a few things about it, the countryside, that are not so great. Again, I'll come on to that later. The people are very friendly. They don't always appear to be very friendly. They can be quite loud in the way that they express themselves, and it can come across sometimes as grumpy, but they're not really. It's just the sort of language is quite harsh to English ears, so it sounds very shouty and loud, but they are nice people. And now I've got something in my pocket that's uncomfortable. Sprinkler. Oh, I've got that in there. Oh, another thing that's good over here. I haven't experienced it, but a lot of people I've spoken to have, and that's the medical care. It's very basic, but it's very prompt. So if you've got a problem, say cataracts or cancer or anything else, it is dealt with here quickly. Unlike in the UK where there's now long waiting lists. Like I say, that the service isn't quite as good, and it's very basic, but it's quick. And at the end of the day, it's the speed you need with some of these things, rather than whether you're in a fancy ward with flowers everywhere. So, downsides. Tax is high for low earners. Essentially this is because there's no tax threshold, so you're paying tax from the very minute you're starting to earn. Again, I'll come on to that later. The beautiful countryside is often covered with litter. It's one of my biggest bugbears over here. People just don't seem to care. When it comes to litter, they're driving along, you'll see them throwing it out the windows. On the edge of most villages, not all, some village mayors are better than others, but certainly a lot of villages there'd be an open air dump at the edge of the village somewhere, and they just throw all their trash, paper, plastic everywhere, and it really spoils things. Definitely one of the downsides. Animal cruelty. It's certainly not as bad as Spain. My parents had a place in Spain, and that was absolutely atrocious. Here, it's not great, but it's not terrible. There's a lot of sort of cats, stray cats, feral cats, in terrible condition, a lot of them. Same with dogs. The dogs are taken out into the countryside and just dumped, or they're chained up, guarding properties, but on short chains, where they just spend their entire lives on a sort of 6 foot length of chain. and they're not fed great. Bit of, you know, some people only visit at weekends and they just put a bucket of water out for the dog and some scraps of bread, and the dog's supposed to live on that. It's very sad. It's getting better, but it's still not great. On the flip side of that, there are a lot of sort of stray dogs around towns that are checked, often, or they're usually castrated or spayed as well, and if they're sort of non-aggressive then they're tagged and allowed to roam around, and a lot of the shops put water out for them and food out for them, and they actually do okay. It's the dogs that are sort of out in the countryside and just left to their own means that I really sort of struggle with. Horses, they're worked here, but I've not really seen any signs of cruelty to horses. They're usually looked after pretty well. There's quite a big gypsy community, and you'll see them galloping their sort of ponies down the road, which obviously is not great for them, but I can't say I've seen any emaciated or looking in terrible condition. They tend to be well looked after, unlike Spain, where we used to see horses that were just worked to death. So yeah, it's not great, but it's certainly better than Spain. Another downside is the bureaucracy. It is a nightmare here. Everything seems to have a little blue stamp on it. When it comes to registering cars, when it comes to basically anything that involves the local municipality, just seems to be made difficult. And the other thing is inconsistency. You'll have on forums and things, somebody will ask, oh, how do you register your car, what do I have to do? And everybody will come up with a different answer, because every district seems to have a different approach to it. Some it's very easy, some it's a nightmare. So again, there's a lack of consistency. I think it is getting better, but and everything is slow. So that's another downside. When it comes to buying houses, there's a real lack of regulation when it comes to estate agents selling houses. You can easily get stung. There seems to be no accountability, so you can have no end of nasty tricks, and there never seems to be a comeback on people. So there's no incentive really for a lot of these estate agents. They're very unscrupulous. Not all of them, obviously, I'm just generalising. But they'll overcharge. They'll tell the vendor that they've sold it for so much when they've sold it for a lot more, and they cream off the profits. Again, it's not everyone. I'm not saying all estate agents are bad, but it's because it's not regulated. There's the scope there for sharks. Intolerance to difference. I found Bulgarian people, although they're very friendly, I can't really say middle-aged. I'm an older white man, heterosexual, so I don't really have a great problem here. There's a bit of intolerance when you don't speak the language. You go into some places and you tell them you can't yet speak Bulgarian, and they just roll their eyes, or they say nah, and they just don't want to have anything to do with you. Other times they bend over backwards to be helpful. But they are quite racist towards, say, Roma people. It's quite open. They don't make any. They don't hide the fact. A lot of Bulgarians will go, Roma, and dismiss them. And so there's definitely racism. I think it's the same people of colour. Well, we're all of colour, but you know what I mean. Sort of black people. I think there is some racism on that front. The gay community, I don't really know, so this is not something, but I've definitely heard that they're quite intolerant of LGBT and that kind of thing. So yeah, they're lovely people, but they're a little bit intolerant, and racist. They're very misogynistic as well. I honestly just sometimes with women I just don't know how they cope. We've got a friend who speaks good Bulgarian, and when we first came over here, she helped me with a lot of the translation. And we go to some official place, and she'd be the one speaking Bulgarian, and there's me. It sounds like gobbledygook, and I try and speak back, and I obviously can't understand them. Yet they're talking to me and ignoring her, simply because I'm a man and she's a woman. So it's definitely a misogynistic country. Again, all of these things I'm generalising. There's a lot of people, and things are changing. It's not as bad as it could be. I don't think it's. I think it's a lot more open, so it's almost more honest. So it's not the overt sort of racism and prejudice that you get in the UK. It's open. So, mate, again, because I've not suffered it, I don't know how people think about this. Maybe you can comment. But certainly I would prefer, if I was the victim of that sort of thing, I'd sooner it was out in the open than behind people's backs. And I think the thing here is they're quite open and honest about it, whereas in the UK it tends to be more of a, I don't know. Anyway, so things to consider if you're thinking of moving over here. Visa and residency. Now luckily we had we came over, we bought the house just over 8 years ago, and we got residency at the time, because even though we weren't living here, you were allowed to take out long-term residency to allow you to spend more time than so there's no problem. You can easily buy a house over here with land in it, and you just set up a company. The only disadvantage of that is when you come to sell it, the tax you have to pay on the sale is a bit more than if you owned it privately. If you own it privately and you've owned it for more than, I can't remember whether it's 2 years or 5 years, you don't pay any sort of tax as such. I haven't sold a house, so I can't tell you for certain. So yeah, so that's the most difficult thing is to think about, is whether you can qualify to get a visa. Of course there's nothing stopping you buying a house if you just want it as a holiday home. So you can buy it and you can spend 3 months in every 6, so you could come over for 2 periods of 3 months every year, and it's a rolling thing, so you could come over for 2 weeks and go back to the UK and then come over for 3 or 4 weeks a bit later. But it's essentially you can only spend 6 months in total in any 1 year, in no longer than 3 months at a time. Which for some people is absolutely fine, and it's certainly fine if you're, say, looking to move to Bulgaria once you retire. So you could buy a house a few years before and come over for holidays, slow doing the house up, etc. But if you want to come over here to live and to work, it's now very difficult. Again, we were lucky. We came over before Brexit, so I'm allowed to work here because of the Article 50. I think now if you're coming over, first of all you have to get a D visa, which allows you to stay for longer periods than 3 months. I don't think that allows you to work as a self-employed person. There's certain reasons to, or there's certain things that qualify you for a D visa, and they're basically if you've got a job offer over here, so you're actually being employed. Education, if you're coming over here to go to college, university. Family reunification. Business, if you're an entrepreneur and you can afford to come over here and set up a business and employ at least 10 Bulgarians, that will qualify you. And marriage. They're the main things. Oh, and retirement. If you're retired, it's much easier because you've got a stable income. So then once you've got your D visa, if you're looking for residency, the first residency you'll get is called long-term residency. I'm not see, this is, you can look elsewhere online, there's plenty of people who tell you a lot more about residency since Brexit, because I think you have to renew it now every year for 5 years until you qualify for then permanent residency. If you're in the EU, you'll be like us. We came over. First of all, you get 5-year long-term residency. At the end of that, you can ask for permanent residency, which is what we've got, and that supposedly qualifies you for basically everything that a Bulgarian's entitled to except voting. But this is where the discrepancies come along and the way the laws are interpreted. Theoretically, if you've got long-term or permanent residency, you should, even if you're not in the EU or Bulgarian citizen, should be able to buy land and a house in your own name. But since Brexit, it seems that's a very grey area and you can't. Same with buying agricultural land. You should, if you've got permanent residency, be able to buy agricultural land. Again, doesn't seem like it works. So there's a lot of these things need challenging in European court, but they haven't yet, so it's still very much a grey area. So yeah, I mean, find out about residency if you're looking to come over here to live. If you're retiring, it's easy. If you're coming over here to work, not so easy. So, coming on to working. I work as a freelancer. I had to basically go to the NAP, which is a sort of a it's the employment, it's kind of an employment agency. Show them what qualifications I had, tell them what I wanted to do, and then they okay it, and then they'll give you what they call a Bullsat number, which you also get if you buy a house or set up a company. That then entitles you to work in the field that you've chosen if they think the qualifications are okay. I've come over here and I basically work as a jobbing builder, house maintenance, so gardening, building, small projects, decorating, painting, that sort of thing. And I've got plenty of work. Mostly working for English. Bulgarians tend to employ Bulgarians. What it has done is it's allowed me to see an awful lot of different houses, speak to a lot of different people, so I've sort of had face-to-face talks about other people's experiences, rip-offs, cautionary tales, so there's a lot of things to watch out for, which even though I haven't experienced myself a lot of these things, I've heard firsthand. So first one is buying a house. Now when we bought, we came over, or I came over first of all, I'd looked at a few houses on an estate agent's website. I came over and the first thing that I found was none of the houses that were on their website that I'd chosen to look at were available. I think there is a term for this. It's basically it's pulling you in on the premise of buying one place only to show you all the other places that tended to be more expensive, trying to trap you into, you know, buying something for more money than what you were actually planning to. Anyway, I didn't fall for that. I decided to come back with Teresa, and what we did was we hired a car, and we basically did a circuit of Bulgaria, looking in different areas, sort of 2 properties a day, then finding somewhere on booking.com to spend the evening, then moving on to the next place. I pre-arranged a lot of the houses, but we'd looked, so we had a mixture. We looked, there's a few publications in Bulgaria. I'll put links below. There's OLX.bg, there's Bazaar.bg, ALO, a few, and they're a bit like Exchange and Mart. So Bulgarian private sellers can list on there, and you can maybe send them an email using Google Translate to arrange a viewing. It worked well for us. I also did find a few through estate agents to look at. So we basically had a look at different properties. I think we looked at about 8 or 10 altogether. We ended up buying privately. The sale was no problem whatsoever. We used the notary in Solistra, a local town. We did use a lawyer, but you don't have to. The notary does everything. We had no problems whatsoever. The whole thing was done in a couple of days, and it cost very little. At the time, I think the notary fee was about 1 or 2% of the value of the house, and we bought the house for 14,000 levs at the time, which was about £7,000. Obviously our budget was small. You can buy much nicer places. Well, not nicer, I love this place. You can buy more modernised, newer places. Certainly if you buy in any areas that are popular with tourism, like in the mountains, in certain places, you know, like Bansko and skiing areas, on the coast, sort of Belgic, the Black Sea, Burgas, places like that. Some of the bigger cities, Sofia, Plovdiv, Varna, you'll find the houses are much more expensive. But out in the rural countryside you can get real bargains. But there are downsides to that as well. So infrastructure wise, the area we're in is pretty good. The roads are fairly good. There's hospitals in Solistra, Dobrich, Turval, Rus, all within Silistra's 20 minutes, Dobrich is an hour, same Rus is about an hour and a half. They were varying quality. A lot of people don't recommend Solistra. I've never tried it, but like I said, you get seen quickly, so that's a good thing. The roads around this area are good, not so in all areas. We've got a friend down in on the Greek border. The roads down there are terrible. There's more pothole than road. So it just depends what area. If you are looking to buy a house, come over and look. Don't believe what you see online. They'll show you pictures that are from when the house was in its prime. Sometimes you'll come over and it's half fallen down, so you must come over and look. I have spoken to people who bought on eBay and places like that who got away with it. Came over, bought a house, or didn't come over rather, just bought a house sight unseen. They've come over and they're happy with it. Others I've heard that have been stung something terrible. Same with builders. My own sort of trade here. I'm not a builder by trade in the UK, but I'm pretty good at building, so that's what I've been doing over here. But there's a lot of cowboys, a lot of people who want money up front and then never do the work. This is what I mean by regulation and comeback. It's a bit of a cowboy state, so you've got to be very careful. There are ways around it. Maybe I'll go into that on another video, but I've got the feeling this is starting to get a bit long now. On the work front, I did do a video talking about taxes. It's a great country if you're an entrepreneur or a high earner, because essentially it's a 10% flat rate on income. The downside, if you're like me, you're not a high earner, is that you're taxed on basically the first euro that you earn. There's no threshold, so say in the UK if you're earning less than 12,500, you won't get charged any income tax until you start going over that. National insurance in the UK, unless you're at a threshold, I can't remember the threshold in the UK, probably, I think it depends how much you earn per week or per month. But if you are a low earner, quite often you don't get charged national insurance either. Downside to that is pensions, but that's another story. Here to work, you have to pay the social fund. If you're not working, if you're a non-working resident, it's around about, I'm still thinking in levs, it was about 30 levs a month, so about €15 a month. If you're working, even I'm 60, I'm never going to be able to claim their pension here, because you have to work here at least 10 years before you can claim a pension. I don't intend to be working in sort of 7 or 8 years time, so I won't qualify for pension, but I'm having to pay into it. So I'm paying nearly 300 levs or €150 a month into the social fund, because I'm also contributing to the pension, which I won't ever be able to claim. Such is life. And then essentially whatever you then earn, you can take 25% off. This is as a freelancer, 25% off plus that social fund. So say you're earning £1,000 a month, €1,000 a month, just to make the sums easy. From that you would deduct 25%, so that brings you down to £750. Then you take off the 300 that you've paid for social fund, so that brings it down to what did we just say, 25%, 750 minus the 300, so it's 450. This is in levs. And then you pay 10% on that, so essentially 45 levs for that 1,000 earned. Obviously the more you earn over that, the higher that goes up. But if you're earning a lot, then you're still only paying 10%, rather than say in the UK where after 12,000 you're paying 20%, then you're paying 40% and so on. It's 10% across the board, so if you're a very high earner you're only paying 10% tax. General taxation is great. Our council tax or the equivalent over here, which is just municipality charges, which is basically you pay for your car, your house. It's just for the basics, for like a community charge in the UK, or council tax rather. Ours was last year 110 levs. That's for the car and the house, which was about £50 for the year, €50. Compared to in the UK over 1,000. Water is about, we're one of the higher cost areas. It's just under €6 or 6 levs, sorry, a cubic metre. So we're in quite an expensive area. I think most places are about half that. Electricity, there's no standing charge. I have solar here, so that keeps my costs down a little bit, but you're only charged on what you use. Whether that will change, don't know. I think some of the way you pay for electric is going to start changing over here, so it will probably go up like it has everywhere else. At the moment it's cheap though. So yeah, housing prices or housing costs, general taxation is low compared to the UK, but there is that gotcha if you're working, that you're paying straight away without threshold. Other things, let me just check my little list. Yeah, some of the other problems with housing. Some of the other things to watch for over here when you're buying it or thinking of buying a house is dying villages. So if a village has less than, I think it's 40 or so full-time occupants, then it's defunded by the government, so they don't, a lot of the infrastructure isn't maintained. Plus obviously if it's a dying village, it starts to get difficult with, well, you don't see anybody. Roads to and from, water, if there's problems they don't get looked at very quickly. Water itself, we're in quite a good area for water. We haven't really had problems. We have recently, but again that's a non-typical thing. That was just a problem with the pipes coming to our house. Generally speaking, we don't get cut off with water in the summer. A lot of places suffer in the summer where water's cut off for many hours of a day, sometimes days. So a lot of people have backup systems put in, 1,000 litre tank in the cellar with a pump, so that it covers them on days when the water's been switched off. Something to think about. So again, if you're looking at buying, check the water in your area, ask neighbours, find out, look online, ask what people think of a certain village where you're looking to go, whether there's problems with it. Same with electric. Again, we've not had any great problems, but some parts of Bulgaria suffer terribly with power cuts. You can counter this with a generator, with solar, backup systems. It's all getting better. I think most people I've spoken to who've got generators and said, oh, we haven't had to use them in the last 2 years, do you want to buy a generator? But there are definitely areas in Bulgaria where that's still a problem. Obviously, like I've said before, house prices depending on the area you're in. A lot of people are attracted to places where there's a big community from their own country. We all have different views on this. There are people who say, oh, don't go anywhere where there's a lot of British. I don't think there's a big problem. We're not in an area where there's a lot of British or people from our own country. I'm a bit of a loner by nature anyway when it comes to that, so it doesn't bother me. I think Teresa would prefer to be somewhere where there's a few more English people so that she's got somebody to talk to. I'm kind of lucky because I'm out and about and I get to speak to people. There are some rogues out there. I think some of the areas where there's a big English community, there's a lot of backstabbing and things, but it's all the sort of thing I think you get with any large community. Again, it depends how you want to conduct yourself, really. I think if you want to get in there and be don't know, a polite way of putting it, essentially people treat you as you treat others. So if you're going to be in a community with a lot of English people and you want to be a gossip and you want to moan about people behind their backs, if that's the sort of thing that floats your boat, then you're going to suffer the same from other people. If you tend to keep to yourself, treat other people with respect, they tend to treat you in the same way. So it's up to you who you mix with. There's upsides to being in a big community of expats. Don't really like that word, but people from the UK or your own country. You can get on well in those sort of places, or you can find that you're ostracised. Trying to say this diplomatically. If you want to come over and live near lots of other English people or other people from your own country, then that's fine. And I don't knock people for that, and I've got nothing at all against other English people. So far I've not met any bad ones, but you do hear from people who've been in situations where they haven't got on, and they've been they warn other people off, and usually the people who warn other people off are the ones who've had problems. And like I say, trying to be diplomatic, but I tend to find that people who've had problems with other people are people who've brought problems upon themselves. I personally think if you are respectful of others and you don't get too in with them, too cliquey, then you'll have no problems. I think if you're a person who likes to gossip about others, likes to know everybody else's business, likes to moan about people, then you'll suffer the same yourself. We don't live anywhere near many other English people. I've got nothing against other English people. It just happens that when we bought this place, it didn't cross our minds I think Teresa would really actually prefer to be somewhere with a few more English speaking people. She gets a little bit lonely. I'm lucky because I'm out and about talking to people. I think when you're living in another country, people gravitate towards people who speak their language, but it's a bit like school. I think you get bullies, you get people who, you get little cliques, so you get little friendship circles who you'll either fit in with or you won't fit in with. So think of it like being new to going to a school. If you want to move, if you want to go in with all the others and fit in, that works, but at the same time it can backfire on you. You can be totally isolated, and for some people like me that doesn't bother me at all, and that's easy over here. It can be a bit isolating, be a bit lonely. Doesn't bother me, but it does some. So it's things like that you need to think about when you come over, whether you want to move to a place with lots of people who can speak English, or whatever your own language is, or not. Entirely up to you. But if you do move to one of those areas and you don't get on with it, you've only got yourself to blame. Likewise, if you go somewhere completely isolated and you find yourself lonely, again, you've only got yourself to blame. So you're going to think hard about that sort of thing, where you want to move, whether you want to move near people who speak your own language or not. Whether you want to be near the sea, in the mountains, secluded, in a city, in a town. Bulgaria's got the lot, but it does need a bit of research when you first move over, or when you're thinking about moving over. It's definitely worth coming over, spending a bit of time here, maybe renting a place to see if you fit, see if you like it, and see which area suits you best. I think that's it really. I think I've waffled enough about this. If there's any questions or anything you want to know, feel free to ask in the comments, or moan about what I've talked about. Yep, so I'll go back to me and Teresa to say goodbye. Right, so I thought I'd get Teresa's perspective on things. I think the first question is, what do you miss about the UK?
Easy. I miss my kids and my grandkids.
Yep.
I miss having conversation with people. Obviously you're at work, so I'm here on my own. So yeah, English speaking and conversation. What else do I miss? A decent steak. Swede.
Oh, we have found a place to get decent steak.
We have, but it's fillet, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And when could we afford to buy fillet steak in the UK?
Well, I don't think, probably twice in our entire 30
odd years.
Yeah, I've been together.
Yeah, the fillet steak's nice.
Yeah. Anything else? Primark.
For goodness sake.
I know.
There's one. Teresa's recently discovered Temu.
Oh, that's Mandy's fault. Love Temu.
What a pain in the bum.
You like Temu?
Yeah, I suppose. Actually, it's changing soon. Temu are going to be.
That's why we get as many orders in as we can afford.
Yeah, if I can afford it. Okay, so what do you like about Bulgaria?
Right, okay. I love the late spring, autumn. The midsummer is unbelievably hot. It's nice because it gives you a purpose, if you know what I mean. Winters are really dreary. But I think, yeah, the summer months are really nice. I really like that. I like the fresh fruit and veg markets you can get. All the veg is so fresh, so tasty. What else do I like? I like their culture and the way they celebrate them.
Yeah.
They're really into their culture. What else do I like? Most of the Bulgarians we know have been friendly, helpful.
Yeah, very.
Very helpful. Wow.
They can come across as a bit grumpy, can't they? They're not, but they come across that
Yeah.
way.
Sometimes they're a bit scary. Especially when you can't understand the language and you know they're saying something to you, but they shout.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is a bit like, ooh.
Oh, God, the battery's getting low. Right, okay. So what do you like about the country?
I just said that.
Oh, sorry. What do you dislike about the country?
Okay, number one, animal cruelty.
Yep.
Can't stand it. To me, this just is alien. Two would be the litter. The amount of rubbish and litter is just everywhere. I think the other thing is Bulgaria is very slow going. So when they say they're going to do something, like in England, if someone says they're coming out to do something, they give you a date. They give you a date here, it could be a week later.
Yeah.
They're not in a hurry to do anything.
No, no.
Other than that,
I quite
what
like
else?
that, but...
No, I don't. Not. No.
But it's a pain when you've got no water.
Yeah.
But...
What else do I dislike? Not a lot else, I don't think. No. Anything else? Don't you love my plant?
Where'd you get that one?
I got this from our friend Katie when it was about this big in a pot.
Yep.
And it's been nurtured.
Just for Katie.
Just for Katie.
Look at that.
Nurtured, loved. And everyone says, chop it off and put it in. No, I like it long. I think it looks beautiful. I'm going to do a few more of these for when we do the new kitchen. Because I think it will look beautiful in the kitchen.
Trees with no plants. Okay.
You finished with me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Go back to my washing?
Yeah. I think that's it for this video. We've got a birthday coming up.
We've got 3 birthdays coming up.
Do you want to say them? Save me coming round in front of the camera now.
So our youngest daughter, Ellie Mae.
Yep.
She will be 28.
Come on, Trees.
I'm trying to think, she's born in 98, so that will make her 28.
Yeah.
So she'll be 28. So happy birthday, Els. And then on the same day we got our youngest grandson, Tylo. And he will be, I'm trying to think now.
Putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I want to say 9. I think he's 9. Yes, he is 9. And then a few days later we got Tavy, our oldest grandson, and he will be 11.
Yeah.
So he starts big school. I think that's it. I don't think there's any more.
Nope. Okay. Well, goodbye from me.
Bye from me.